Here's a quick timeline of how investing in assets makes all the difference when you're building wealth. 2009, 2011, I had to learn. I had to go read books. I was 20 to 22. I was in college. to play football. If it weren't for football, would have been out of there. Really, I invested $300 to $500 probably on Amazon or bookstores and a couple seminars to go and start learning about money, real estate investing, business, and investing in general, and successful people, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, other traders, other real estate people, and just soaked up as much knowledge as I could with the mindset of I'm going to implement. I'm not just going to learn just to learn for learning's sake and to get educated. I want to be able to learn and then retain that and then use it in the real world. So it got to the point where I was skipping classes to read my own books on what I was getting in investing because school was not really teaching me what I did. I basically did just enough in school to get by. Was still super respectful of my teachers and professors and all that stuff, but I had zero attention span when it came to that because it just was not teaching me what I wanted to learn. It's all right. Just keep that in there, Ryder. Don't even get rid of that. Oop. I might need to get rid of that. Oh yeah, no, this is right. This is right.
That's right.
That did not work as well as I thought. 2012, graduated, and I invested $2,100 into direct sales. I had basically no money after I did that. It was everything. It actually kind of took me in the hole. Quickly sold that $2,100 worth of product that I had to invest in to get into that company and made a profit of like $800, $900. And that first year in direct sales, I made about $12,000. But the whole time I was learning and getting experience, practical experience in sales, and those sales skills really went to help me later on when it came to raising money from investors and putting these deals together. Because even when you're buying deals and investing in businesses, it's still a sales process because many times there's other bidders that the sellers could sell to, right? So you got to sell yourself to that seller and tell them that, hey, I'm the buyer for this asset, right? So I was really honing those skills. I knew that $12,000, I had friends that were making $50,000 to $70,000, $100,000 salary. And so, that was kind of hard to swallow at first, but it to me is just like, I know that what I'm doing today isn't going to pay me today, but it's going to pay me down the road. So I viewed it as an investment. I just took less money, but was getting experience. I was working like crazy. The only time I went home was basically to sleep. Other than that, I'd be out until 1 a.m. sometimes because of the drives back from direct sales. I'd have to go 3 hours away to do a meeting or whatever. Get home at 12, 1 a.m., and I'd be up at 6, 7 a.m. ready to rock and roll again. Kept learning, kept reading. I kept looking at deals. So once again, I started to learn back here that I had to go look at deals. I started to learn here, and when I was still learning of what to look for in these deals, and even though I didn't have the money yet to purchase a piece of real estate, I kept learning and I kept looking at deals. And I was looking at deals that, I couldn't even buy a $150,000 duplex, but I was looking at $500,000, $800,000, million, $1.2 million deals, and just going through that experience and looking in the financials and saying, okay, if I ran this asset, like what looks fat here? What are we spending too much on the lawn care that we can go find a better, just as good a service for a better price? Same thing with the trash containers and all that stuff. So I really would put myself in the position of, okay, this is a building that I own. What can I do operationally that would make this financial statement better? And when you make the financial statement better and it throws off more cash, you have more EBITDA or net operating income in real estate, the property becomes worth more because the cash flow, people are going to buy a property for the cash flow that it provides, just like they're going to buy a business for the cash flow that it's throwing off. So was learning, looking at deals. I was continuing to get great at sales. 2012, same with 2013 to 2015. I grew that direct sales income to $3,500 to $6,000 a month ish in that time. As my income went up, I did not start spending more. In fact, I was still living at home, and once again, I wasn't at home much because from 7 a.m. till 1 a.m. in the morning, I was building my business. And I was out, I was meeting people, I was doing things to grow this and to keep looking at properties and make connections with investors and all that stuff, because I knew I was getting closer to that time when it came time to pull the trigger on an investment. And I think it was actually late 2013, I had saved up just over $20,000. I put in $20,000 into a 4-unit. you know, the unique thing about me was there was other people in this direct sales company that was paying off their personal debt. They were paying off student loans in lump sums. You know, so if someone was in, I think when I started, I was like $30,000 in school debt. So instead of taking this 20 and just throwing it right towards student loans, and I looked at that as a defensive mindset. I wanted to play offense with that. So I kept paying the minimums on my student loans. I didn't care if it was 6%, 8%, 9%, whatever it was. I didn't care because I wanted to play offense. I took the 20, I went and I bought a 4-unit. The year after that, went and bought another 4-unit, the one right next door. The first 4-unit put $20K into. It started paying me $500, $1,000 a month. So now I have this, you know, $500 to $1K coming in a month while this thing's paying me, right? So now I get more per month, and this is still growing. This was still on the up. So now I have this extra $500 to $1K a month coming in, this $6,000, $6,500, you know, $7,000. And once again, as my income went up, I did not spend more. Like, my spending stayed here. It was not like that. My expenses did not go like that. My expenses stayed the same. And then what happened was I could save even more, right? So every month I was able to save more. Now the second 4-unit, we were actually able to negotiate seller financing. So we had to put zero money down on this second 4-unit, zero. The seller held the mortgage on it. And I take that back. We might have put $5K down, but a substantial portion of the down payment was held by the seller. Once again, went in here, fixed it up, rents went up. We cut certain expenses that we didn't need while still providing great maintenance and service to the tenants. And you know, soon this one was paying me, you know, that $500 to $1K a month, right? So now I've got that, I've got this, I've got this. That's all growing. And once again, my expenses did not go like that. My expenses stayed flat, which again allowed me to save more money. All right, now let's see if I can operate this a little better this time. 2016 to 2017. Did I skip any years there? I don't think so. Grew direct sales to about $10,000 a month. Now you got to remember, when I did that, the properties, you know, were paying me $1,000 to $2,000 a month. All right, so this is $1,000 to, you know, $2K ish per month. Once again, my expenses stayed the same. They didn't go like this. My expenses stayed the same. So that surplus, all the surplus I got to save, and it started to stack up, right? So I'd saved over $120,000 at this point. I put $100,000 into our veterinary business. I bought into the company, the family business, and that started paying me every single month, right? So now I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, right? So you see what you start to do when you acquire assets, because this direct sales was not an asset. It wasn't something that I owned. I didn't own shares in it. I was not, you know, a founder of it. I had no asset there. It paid a great income, and direct sales is great to pay income, right? To save, to invest in assets. So I knew I was always scared of this company going away. I thought it was going to be in 2030, maybe it'll go away. Well, that company ended up going away in 2019. And when it did, it didn't matter because I had enough other income from my investments, right? So I'm glad that I viewed this not as a business that I owned, because I didn't. I wasn't a decision maker. I was just an independent contractor, essentially. Could have been fired anytime. And I wanted to invest in real estate, you know, other businesses. So I'd saved over 100, invested 100 there, ended up finding an investor partner. We went and bought 152 units with the investor partner. That's the 88 unit in Delavan that you guys see, and it was a 24 unit, a 40 unit over Milwaukee that we've since sold. We made really good money there. The storage unit deal, I put zero money into this deal, but I owned 72% of it. We bought it for around 1.2. Once again, I had zero money in, 72% owned. We bought it so it was cash flowing just barely day one, but there was a lot of value add. So we took it from the floor. Right here where it was operating, and we just took it off the charts. We started I negotiated with the seller that we could begin advertising the vacant storage units before we. Basically, there was vacant storage units. There was a vacant 4,000 square foot warehouse. So I negotiated with the seller. Hey, do you mind? Actually, I didn't even negotiate. I literally just said to him, I said, hey, do you mind if I just start filling up these units for you? And if we don't close on this, you just get the benefit. You don't have to pay me anything. It's a no-brainer, right? If this deal doesn't close, I told Mr. Seller, you just get the benefit at all. But I knew it was going to close. We had it under contract, right? So, $1.2 million deal. We added a ton of value to it. And when I bought these first larger multifamily deals, the bank, the 88 unit was a $4 million mortgage. The bank is like, you don't have any management experience. You need a professional property management company to manage this thing for you. So a year later, in spring of 2017, we found out that the 88 unit was suffering. They were skimming off the top. They were not being honest with the financials. There was money missing. There was, apartments that they said were full that were actually vacant. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not even going to ask the bank. I'm going to just fire this property management company. I'm going to start my own property management company. And we solved the issues within 3 months. Back then, that 88 unit that we bought was around $50,000 to $55,000 a month of revenue. And now we're pushing $95,000 a month in revenue just, 2.5 years later. So crushing it there. But I started a management company because I wanted to have the infrastructure. I wanted to start to build an infrastructure that we can take on these assets and know for sure that they're going to be adequately attended to. They're going to be operated efficiently. The asset's going to be properly cared for, because if you take care of the asset and the people that live there, and you go after renewals and you improve the asset, and yes, you can make distributions along the way, but if you take care of the asset, you're going to come out, you can multiply your money very greatly in real estate if you take care of the asset. And so that's what I really wanted to do. I want to start building that infrastructure. We hired a controller that year, hired a property manager, some maintenance techs to take care of this stuff. So then it takes us to 2018, which I turned 29 that year, I think. We sold the 8 units. So we had bought them for a total of about $400K. They paid us $1,000. By the end of it, it was about $2K a month. For every month that we held it for about 36 months, we sold it for $610,000. Right? So that was a solid deal. Not to mention the $70,000 that we had refied as well. So we had a big, I just wrote on the wall. So we had a big gain there, essentially. We then took the profits from this and we had invested in a 10 unit and a 47 unit. So I took my earnings. I didn't have to pay any tax on that. We 1031'd it forward into a 10 unit, which is Westway. If you guys follow me on social media, you know that we went way over budget on our remodel there, but it doesn't matter because the property's crushing it now. And the same thing here, we're way over budget on our these were the first 2 big value adds that I had, bigger, larger scale, over budget, but both of them are still crushing it. We had to pay 0 tax on this. So then the storage units. We already bought these storage units over here. We bought them for 1.2. As the year went on, we went through about a year and a half. We raised the value on this from 1.2 to about 1.9. We were able to actually refinance it and buy 150 more storage units. So once again, now I have 72% of this storage unit here, this storage unit here, with 0 of my own money. We had one other investor. My buddy and I managed it. And these things just started cash flowing like crazy. It started cash flowing $5 or $6 grand a month. And actually in 2019, we then sold the storage units. So we bought this one for 1.2. I think we had bought this one for about 1.2 as well, so 2.4. We ended up selling the storage units for $3.55 million. So we made over $1 million on that deal in like 36 months. It was actually a little bit less. I think it was like 30 months or 32 months. And once again, we took that. We had proceeds of about $1 million, and we rolled it forward into the 96 unit. So once again, no tax on that money. Rolled it forward into the 96 unit. We own about 50% of the 96 unit. So now think about this, right? The storage units bought for 0 money down, 0 of my own money in. And it turned into this, which then we own 50% of this now, 0 money down, right? And this property we bought for 4.75. It was a steal. The guys they operated the asset from 400 miles away, didn't really know the market, didn't know what they were doing. It was a steal of an asset because we bought it for 4.75, cash flowing about 15% cash on cash year one. Today we've been in this asset about a year and a half. I would not sell it for less than $9 million. If someone came and said, "Hey, I'll give you $7 million for this that we just paid 4.75," no, thank you. Come again. Then what happened was we ended up selling, and I didn't even put this on here. We sold not the 88 unit, but the 42 unit and the 40 unit and the 24 unit we had in Milwaukee. So when we sold that, once again, we rolled it forward into this, and we rolled it forward into this, all of our equity. So no capital gains tax. We're able to keep more money working for us. Now with this deal, this deal, this deal, this deal, and this deal, I started getting involved in private equity. And I don't even know if I drew this. Nope, I didn't draw it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
How did you get the storage unit with 0 down?
All right, so remind me about private equity. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
The private equity part, and I'll do the storage unit. So the storage unit deal, let me just write PE up here so I remember. We're going to come back to the private equity. The storage unit deal was on the market for, maybe like almost a year, and it was 60% occupied, ballpark. There was like 120 storage units. There was 20,000 square feet of like boat storage space for the winter, or, just like open warehouse type space almost. There was a 4,000 square foot shop, and there was 5 apartments. And the seller, the listing was about to come up, so the broker wanted to move it, right? Because if the selling expired, he took it away from the broker wasn't going to get paid. So the broker, even though she was on his side because she was a listing broker, she was still like advocating, hey, you should work with these guys. So I think he had it listed for 1.5. We got it for, our first offer was like 800,000. We had 11 counter offers. We came in at 1.2. So what we did for the storage units, I'll just do storage units here. It was 1.2. The bank gave us, let me see, the seller, and then we had an investor. The investor put in like 60,000. The seller held 240,000. So we would pay the seller back every month basically for this. And the bank did like 900K. Right? So what I did was I gave this investor 15% plus of equity plus 6% preferred return on their money, right? This investor made out great on this. She like 3 or 4 extra money, by the way. Then there was 85%, so then my buddy got 13%, and I ended up with 72% equity. So I ended up with 72%. Plus, there was a lot of issues getting this to happen because the banks that we were trying to get to finance it, this guy did the seller took a lot of cash on the property. So a lot of there was no financials, there was no tax documents to back up how much the property is actually making because he just did it under the table. He didn't report it. And so it was really hard for us to get a loan. I really fought and I really helped the seller prove as much of the income as I could to show the bank. And so I also told the seller, because of that work I did, I said, hey, Mr. Seller, and I did this like 3 weeks before we sold it. I said, hey, by the way, because I did all this stuff for you, you're going to pay me $10K at the closing. So he paid me $10K at closing to do this, and I got 72% of the asset. He made it out great because my buddy made it out great. He has 13% of that, no money down, and he got to manage it, so he made money managing it. The investor made it out great because now this is worth 240, or it was probably worth like 200 or 240 once we were done here. But now she is invested. She also rolled her funds forward into the 96 unit. So now her 240 is probably worth like more like 500 just like 4 years later. So that's how. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then once again, then you go on and we went on and bought the other one for 1.2 million, and 0 money down because we were able to refinance. And when we refinanced, we were still we did not over leverage. We didn't even go up to 75%. We went up to, I think, back up to like 65% LTV. So super conservative. So then, as I mentioned before, we start fighting off the 10 unit, the 47 unit, the 96 unit, 42 unit, 99 unit. And what we did here, we started a private equity company. So now we start raising money from other investors, right? And our offer was, hey, investors, we'll give you a 6% preferred return. So what that means, if you invest $100,000, you're going to get $60,000 a year, right? And we do deals that cash flow on the deal level anywhere from 10. I should take that back. Anywhere from 6% year one, so we can for sure pay the preferred return. Anywhere from 6% up to 12, 14% year one cash on cash return. Now, once we get that 6% to them, though, the leftover profits are split. 70% go back to the investor, 30% comes my private equity company, right? So now for us performing to get our investors more money, of what's left of the profits after paying the preferred return, what's left is then split. Does that make sense, Ryder?
Yeah.
Get that?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is over time, as we get them a 12% annualized return, and we backfill all those years, right, that we were short. So let's say year one, we got them the 6% preferred return plus, because of the 70% of extra profits, it took it up to maybe an 8% or 9%. Once we backfill for all those years and we're at 12% annualized, then it's a 50-50 split after that, with the remaining profits after that. 50 to the investors, 50 to the private equity company. So now you build in a private equity company that's worth $4, $5, $6, $7 million, whatever it's worth, based on basically the future cash flows. And the private equity company also gets 1% acquisition fee, a 1% disposition fee. So when we buy properties, if we have like we bought $18 million worth of we bought about $25 million worth of property last year. The private equity company got $250K for that, right? Now, this is what I do know. Those assets that we bought last year for about, actually it was more like $300,000 or $30 million that we bought last year. That $30 million, I can tell you this. I think that $30 million in total as a portfolio right now, we're at 53. That's the value of it. I think if we went to market, that total value of the 30 we bought last year is probably more like 42. And the 53 of our whole portfolio is probably more like close to 70 ballpark. So that's a little bit about, number one, going back. Let's see, can I go back? Where are we at here? Going back to the very beginning, which this isn't the beginning, but going back to the beginning, that's the power of putting your money to work. And I've made previous videos about why you should make sure you're investing before you're buying a house and all this stuff. But that's why you should put money to work into cash flow producing assets, right? And so now it's 2020, COVID happened, but when COVID happened, I wasn't gonna go in my COVID bubble and just cross my fingers and hope our companies made it through. I went out and started a painting company. Because years prior to that, we had some big painting projects coming up at our properties. I knew the price of them. Okay, if I can offer our properties, if we have $30K of painting projects right now bid at our properties, if I can start a company and do it for $25K and still make a profit, why would I not just start my own painting company? Considering we've done about $300,000 worth of painting over the last 3 years. So I started a painting company, Prime Painters, right? We hired 4 painters. I think we're at 5 now. We're hiring another one. We got a sales rep. We got a project manager. The cool thing about the project manager, I'm not even gonna write it. The cool thing about the project manager for the Prime Painters, he's basically 50% compensated by the painting company, 50% compensated by the properties, because he's been able to come in and help all of our processes at our properties when it comes to the large CapEx projects. His previous roles, he was overseeing 100 unit, 200 unit, 300 unit, basically complete demos in the units in the whole apartment complex, and refurbishing them, remodeling them. So his experience and just contacts and all that stuff, we've been able to leverage between not only the painting company but also all of our properties. And basically going forward, it's going to allow us to do remodels for cheaper, and we can get them done faster. And anytime you have something that's cheaper, but you're still getting the same value, so the vendors are doing better quality or the same quality, right, for less money, and we're getting the units leased faster, that means everything's going to become more valuable. There's going to be more cash flow, the property value is going to go up, and it's a good situation for everybody because we're winning together. Hired Ryder, the content creator, and now we got people that are reaching out to me and like, hey, can you create content for us? Now this content creator, that might be a new business, right? And as I mentioned before, the real estate holdings right now, that's the value on them. We're always looking to grow. We're always looking for more investors. If you're curious about investing right now, it's accredited investors only, and the minimum investment is $50,000. Invest in cash flow producing assets. Invest your money in assets, especially when you're young. You can rent for a little while. When you're 20 to 30 years old, rent, save, invest everything.